Hello, everyone. Welcome to LLK number 69. That is Knit with Laura and Lola. I am Laura Nelkin. I'm a knitwear designer. I live in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes region, and I am joined by my alter ego Lola, who hangs out on this shoulder or sometimes both shoulders. And some of you have been watching these lives for going on 68 other times now, and this is the 69th live. And I like to liken this to, like, some people might celebrate their 50th live or their 100th episode, but since Lola, my alter ego, is super spicy, completely inappropriate, and always makes us giggle, she's celebrating 69 this time. So I have 69 things to show you. My friend Melinda just texted me and suggested that every time I make a 69 reference or say 69, y'all have to drink. And I would say that would be really fun, but I think we're all of a certain age and not really drinking like that anymore. So you can have water or tea or just like a little sips of your wine every time. For those of you who've never watched a live before, welcome. This one's going to be a little extra special. I've got lots to share. It's been probably 2.5 months since I've done a live, so I'll do a little bit of catching up and then a bunch of sharing of new stuff. It was fun to take a little break. Summer is a blast in the Finger Lakes where I live, and I found that I like to get off the computer at the end of the day, not kind of wait to get back on the computer to be with you all. So lives are happening sporadically throughout the summer. If you are watching live, there is a chatter thread happening. Every once in a while, you will see my eyes going over. Probably you'll see me do that 69 times throughout this to see what people are saying. What I try to do is not answer questions as they come in live. So if you have a question while I am talking and yammering and showing you things and sharing what I'm up to, save it for the end of the live. It's very likely that I just haven't gotten to it yet. And I find for those of you watching later, if I'm responding to all the chatter in the live, it can be like a little annoying to watch afterwards. So I try to keep these lives pretty fun to watch in the moment together, and then also later on if you had something going on and couldn't make it to the live when it was happening. So I can see in the chat right now that people are talking about what they're knitting. Everybody introduced themselves and said where they're from. If you haven't done that yet, please go ahead and do that. It's really fun to hear what everybody's knitting on. Lots of you are knitting on Larch PEDS because we're having a short sock knit along in my Facebook group, and I'll tell you a little bit of more about that later. When I start a live, I like to start with what I'm wearing, and I'm wearing one of my jumpsuits, and I'm just going to stand up so you can see it. We're going to talk about jumpsuits later on in the live. I know a lot of you have questions about the jumpsuits that I've been wearing in some of my recent photo shoots and videos, and I've got a good collection for you of sewing patterns that kind of match what I've been wearing and where I got mine. I am wearing the answer. The answer was May, right? May? Yeah, May's Lola's Choice kit. Lola's Choice is my small knitted kit club. It has rolling admissions, so you can join us every time. The answer sold out in seconds. I've never seen a kit fly out the door that quickly. I always try to order a few extra kits so people, when they see the project, they can sign up and join the club. But with the answer, I did that and people saw it and signed right back up or signed up for the first time. And it uses a ball of Katia Concept Atiana tones that I got when I was in Spain, I guess last November. And I was able to get enough of it for the club. And it's got these, I'll take it off so you guys can see it. Lola is stripping already for you, which is very exciting this early in the live. She loves to take off her clothes and show you things. So what the answer has is these little pools of rainbow bling and then beads that are worked up the edge of the triangle. It is worked from tip to tip. So you start with just a few stitches and work to the other end. And although club kits are sold out, I am working on getting more kits in 3 different colorways. Those are on order. The boat is going to leave Spain mid-July, so they'll be here mid-August. So let's say like beginning of September, there will be answer kits. The pattern's also available on Ravelry, so you can go and do some stash diving or find Atiena online somewhere if someone has some in stock, and then get some beads or go bead stash diving if you have a bead stash like I do. Some people have beads stashes. It uses US size 6 beads, and the pattern does include a very detailed video tutorial that walks you through every step and also like what kind of beads you need and how many. So I've got you covered on that. That's what I'm wearing. The other thing I'm wearing, which is like I'm the queen of TMI, I'm also wearing an HRT patch, which you cannot see. So I entered my mid-50s. I jumped on board with many other women going through menopause and decided to see if HRT was going to be for me. And I'm going to say that I've been having some very good nights of sleep lately that I hadn't had in a while. And so I'm a fan. Did make my chi-chis a little bigger, which I've heard is a side effect. I feel like my body's pretending to be pregnant for a second. And wow, I'm so oversharing with you people. Sorry. There we go. I know a few of you are also in this boat with me, and I think it's important to share these things. If you don't have a friend, my husband is just, this is what his head's doing, like this. The overshare is over. Moving on from what I'm wearing. One of you asked about the AC in my video studio, so wondering why we don't have air conditioning. And we live in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes region, and traditionally in the summer, you'd have like 1 or 2 like kind of heat waves that wouldn't be too crazy, and you'd just be kind of hot and go to the lake, and you could kind of cool the house down at night because it would get cool at night, and open up windows and use fans. And lately, the last few years, the heat has been a little bit more intense, not quite as manageable. The video studio that I'm in right now is our only room with a real AC. We do have one other very old AC that I believe is 35 years old in the guest room that takes a lot of power to get that baby going. So the AC in the video studio broke, and we need that because the lights are so crazy. And if we try to open windows when we're filming at night, then bugs come in. And I'm like, if you look at some of my earlier videos, you can see me swatting bugs out of the way while I'm teaching you something. So the AC has certainly made it easier in here, but it broke right during the last heat wave. So we were waiting for that to get fixed and a part to come in, and now it's back, and I missed it very much. So that's the little story about why we don't have AC. We live in a big old farmhouse, and typically it's not that many days when our we have a oil furnace that is still doing great, but maybe one day when that is on its last legs and it's time to replace that, we'll look at doing something that also has AC in it, but that's down the line. I'm not going to worry myself about that right now. What I will say, for those of you who've been watching, is we are getting an oven. We have an oven on order, and Max built the whole box. We got a whole new countertop piece coming in for that section, and by fall, I will definitely, right, Max, by fall, trying to get some commitment from behind the camera here. It's on order, so we're really stuck with when it comes, but they told us between 1 and 7 weeks, which is a nice wide window of expectation right there. So oven, yay. One of the things I love to tell you about in lives, it is what is off my needles, what is on my needles. I'm going to show you how to work the cuff on Larch PEDS today. I'm going to talk about my new trip to Japan, talk about some other adventures I have going on. I've got a new yarn to show you that no one's seen before. Got some photos of my garden just to share. And generally for 69 minutes, I will be entertaining you. That was your cue to drink, Melinda. That was just for you. I'm going to have a very drunk Melinda by the end of this live. So jumping in, the first thing I want to talk about is what is off my needles. And what is off my needles is almost 3 pairs of Larch PEDS. These two Larch PEDS are off my needles. These are the toe-up version of Larch PEDS that released last week. And then this last Larch PED, which is in Gauge Dye Works Gemstone, which was April's exclusive. I think so. What Gauge Dye Works does with their self-striping yarn is every month she'll do like a short run of a new colorway, and you kind of got to get it while you can. And so this was April's color, and I just loved it. I love a good rainbow. It matches the answer so well. So I got that, and the second one we're going to work on the cuff together and finish it up so you can see what that looks like. I knit these, I guess, earlier in the winter. They are knit in LaRue vegan sock. And I talked about this in a past live. Let me kind of go overhead so you can see it. This is a cotton and nylon sock yarn. And I'm on the fence about it because this sock is significantly thicker than this Larch Ped, which is knit in a 80 merino 20 nylon. I don't know if you can appreciate it. I think you can if I hold them to the side, that the yarn is a little bit beefier, and knitting it at this dense gauge, it's a thicker sock. I'm not sure I'm a fan. And I said that initially when I got the yarn, that it was an experiment to see if I liked this cotton sock yarn. I've worn them a little. I haven't worn them a ton. These guys I've worn a few times, but I've been trying to keep clean for photography, and I think I get to wear them. And I was knitting them on the cruise in March because they matched my penguin, and we were going to see penguins. And how could I not knit a Larch Ped that looked like a penguin to match my Pappy, the penguin, right? So that's the story of all of the Larch Peds that I have been knitting over the last few months. The other thing that is off my needles that I cannot show you is July Lola's Choice kit, and that is going to be shipping next Monday, the 7th. We decided to wait till after the holiday weekend because I knew if I shipped it before, like if I shipped tomorrow, it would end up kind of like sitting somewhere. And I worry about little clogs in the works with the USPS. So I've learned with holiday weekends that sometimes it's better to wait and ship afterwards. And if I had shipped on the 1st, like yesterday, what would have happened is some people would have gotten it before the holiday, and then most people wouldn't have gotten theirs till after the holiday. And that's like too big a break. We've been learning over the years how to do these things. So those will go out on Monday. I'm very excited to knit this with you. If I was going to like tease you a tiny bit, I'm just going to tell you it's a little something with a very unique construction. It uses my stitch saver techniques. It's one of those trust the pattern kind of patterns, which you know I love to write. It was an engineering feat. I knit about like 5 or 6 little mini versions of it as I was figuring it out. And then I knit one that was too big and I figured out how to scale it. And so I'm very excited to knit it with you. And we're going to film that tutorial this weekend. I think Sunday evening is our film that tutorial time. And then the other thing that's off the needles, just to continue the teasing, is the N Club, the next N Club project. So the N Club is my larger kit club thing, and that is closed for the year. Those signups are always only open for a limited time, and then they close again, unlike Lola's Choice, which you can always sign up for. And I cannot wait for you guys to get this kit. And actually everything arrived today. So as soon as we get Lola's Choice out next week, we're going to start building those. And I think we'll ship earlier than anticipated, because if it's all here, I don't mind getting it out the door to you and getting that onto your needles a little sooner. I know that the Lola's Choice pattern is going to knit up very quickly, so you'll be ready for that next one. And no one's seen it. I've been like kind of sort of teasing a teeny tiny bit, but she's very good. And I've been working with a new photographer, and we got some great shots of it that I'm so excited to share. In terms of what's on my needles, in honor of going to Japan in March of 2027, I am knitting with the ball of Noro that I got last fall. So this is a ball of the classic Noro Kurion. It's a huge ball. It's like an Aran weight. And I am knitting my old photographer who's moves baby, because she had a baby. I'm knitting him a mashup of Hoodola and Caltipus. So I'm using the whole Hoodola pattern, but I use just the Caltipus edging for the front part right here. I love the way the Noro is striping. It's so fun to knit just to see those stripes happen. And what I'm gonna do, I think, because the Caltipus stitch is kind of pulling up that front a little bit, I'm going to make it a tiny bit longer. I'm just worried that he has a big noggin and it's going to be hard to get over his noggin if this opening isn't big enough. But I didn't want there to be a string on this one because I know he's a little guy. So I wanted this to be a little bit snugger, which is what the Caltipus stitch does at the edge. And if anybody has any questions about that, this is not up on, I don't have a project page made for it on Ravelry yet, but at some point I will, and I'll explain what I did with this stitch because it's really not hard to do. So I think I've got like 8 more rows to go of the hood, and then I'm going to join into the round, and I have an idea for what I'm going to do with the neck. I don't think I'm going to do that like kind of balaclava thing with him. I think I'm going to do some increasing so it can sit around his shoulders a little bit and kind of like tuck under a jacket. If you have a ball of Noro that is one of like the wool ones, probably not one of the cotton silk ones. I don't think those would be a great idea for Hoodola. A ball of Noro makes a beautiful Hoodola, and a few of my local friends have been knitting Hoodolas out of Noro, and they're so pretty, really gorgeous and fun. So it's like one of those yarns that does all of the work for you, but you end up with something that's really spectacular looking. So that's something that you hadn't seen before. That's been kind of, I knit on it as the spirit moves me. I got a little time before he needs something warm like that. There's so much I cannot show you that I'm knitting because I am working on a big future project that you will hear about hopefully in August, potentially in the next live. That would be live not 69, that would be live 70, where things will be very serious. And I think I'll be ready to share that project and get you guys going with it. And it's a big fall something that we have lots of plans. There's been lots of giggling happening on my side of the work thing lately. It's been really fun to be home and like lean into things and get them done a little bit. Nice, we're getting some cheers every time I say the lucky number. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, since I can't show you that much more of my knitting, is talk more about Larch PEDS and the short sock knit along that's happening in the Facebook group. I think a lot of people who are in the live chat right now are taking part in the short sock knit along. And I have a short sock I cast on, but I have no idea how far I'm going to get on it with you all because I'm really sucked into that other project I can't show you. But I cast on a toe up Larch ped in unique sock kit mini. So this is the sock kit for kids that Earth Yarns has put out, and it has 2 identical balls in it. This is the yarn that I knit buble in, and I had this extra kit in a different color that I always meant to knit a buble in, but then I realized it would be great for Larch peds. I did the math, and there's enough yardage. There's about 125 yards per ball, and that's enough to do probably up through the US size 4 of the toe up Larch peds. I don't think it would be enough for the US size 5, like borderline. You might end up having to line your cuff with something else if you ran out. So I'm not totally sure about that one, but definitely up through the US size 4. If you have this, if you maybe you have some in stash, maybe your local yarn store carries it. A little birdie told me today that Jimmy Bean's wool had some colors on sale. There were like some discontinued kits. Make sure that you get the unique sock kit mini, not the full-size adult one. I mean, you could do it out of those. You just get a bunch of Larch peds if you were getting the adult size set, and that would work for those larger sizes. Of course, maybe you could make like 69 pairs with that. Maybe I just said that. drink. Okay, so other short socks that I wanted to show you that are part of the knit along. I have 7 short sock patterns and I grabbed them all right here to show you. And I thought what I would do, if I do it like this, I can kind of hold it up so you can see it. This is the Lemmy-Ped, and the Lemmy-Ped has beads at the cuff. It's worked from the top down. It's got purl stitches going along the top of the foot, which really helps with the fit at the top of the foot. And it's got what I call a princess sole. So the sole of the sock is reverse stockinette stitch, where the purl stitches are on the outside and the knit stitches are on the inside. And then it's got an eye of the partridge heel. So Lemmy sock has some fun stuff going on. And as I look at it more closely, I'm going to change my mind and tell you that Lemmy sock is worked from the toe up. I'm sorry about that. This is a toe up one, not a top down one. Next up, here's a very fun one. This is called Bottoms Up. And Bottoms Up is also, you guessed it, worked from the toe up. And there are 2 versions of Bottoms Up. Bottoms Up has this brioche toe for a more complex version, which was really fun to write up and also to knit. And then it's got this corrugated ribbing for the heel and a brioche cuff. So if you are someone who loves to knit short socks and you love to knit brioche and you want to combine those together in a sock, that's a pretty fun one. There is also a bottoms up that is worked from the toe up, but much simpler, just with a 2-color striped heel and then that corrugated ribbing. Sorry, toe. That's a toe. This is the heel. And then just a little bit of jogless striping for the body, and then a corrugated ribbing cuff with optional beads at the top if you want to. They're very fun to knit. They're a blast. There's also, I think this is my first shorty sock. This is Nugget Peds. Nugget Peds was worked from the top down. It starts with a cuff with beading. You can also work it without beads. I saw somebody do that in the Facebook group the other day. It's got a traditional slip stitch heel flap, a turned heel, a gusset, and then just a sweet, straight up little foot. These are really one of the first socks that I ever designed. There's also Princess Lola. Princess Lola are worked from the top down, and they also have that princess heel right there. That heel, that sole, and that sole is really nice at the bottom of your foot. Sorry if these have any hair on them. I've worn them. I tried to like clean everything up a little bit before I was going to show it to you. Then we've got last year's Sneak Away Greatest Hit, Larch Peds, which I released for a Lola's Choice kit. And then many of you knit Larch Peds. Many of you knit more than one Larch Ped. We ended up adding some arch shaping. We added sizes to this pattern. They are worked from the top down, and they have a ribbed cuffed lining that is worked first with short rows, and then it starts with a provisional cast on, and then you work the outside of the cuff and join those together, and then work the heel flap and the heel and work down to the toe. And I have 3 pairs of these. I wear them constantly unless it's 100 degrees out. It's like if it gets at about 90, it's too hot for me to wear these guys. But I have hiked in them. I have traveled in them. They have been in airports with me. This is another one that I knit in Gauge Dye Works that I love and have worn a ton. Get that out of there before you can see my hair on it. And then I worked on the toe up version of Larch Ped earlier this spring and winter, and that is what released last week. So what I wanted to do with you is tell you that if you want to join the Short Sock KAL, I'll give a link to that below when the live is done. You can knit on any one of my socks. There are prizes given out throughout the summer, just more sock yarn to knit more socks from my stash. Not to knit socks from my stash, to knit with yarn from my stash. And that's all happening in my Facebook group. If you hadn't heard about it, if you get my newsletters, you've already heard me talk about it a few times. But what I wanted to show you tonight is how to finish the sock because I really want to get to wear this pair of socks. And I have this sock up to the point where I have worked the entire sock and I have worked the outside of the heel and I have worked the inside of the heel, and it's time to fold them together and join them together. And I'm going to show that to you under the camera and keep an eye on things. Oh, Nancy just said 69 socks. Good, that's getting into 69 bottles of beer on the wall right now. Or 100 bottles of beer on the wall. I can't even with Lola right now. So here is the toe up Larch ped. And what is going on this inside right here is you can see that yarn is wrapped around a piece of stitch saver. When I got to this round right here, before I started the shaping for the outside of the cuff, I worked a technique that I do called, this one's called Lola's two timing technique, all the way around. And what that technique does is hold a piece of stitch saver either in front of or behind your work, and you wrap your working yarn around that stitch saver as you go to work each stitch. And what that means is now that it's time to finish this sock and fold this to the inside right there, traditionally, if you were going to do a project like this, once you folded your lining to the inside, you would end up binding off these stitches and then sewing them down right here, or you would be picking up stitches all the way around, hoping that you're picking them up in the same row and then working a knit two together, bind off all the way around. But what Lola's pickup line does is makes it so it's really easy to know where that joining row is. So the first thing that I'm going to do, and I always get a little nervous when I do live tutorials, because when Max and I do videos, if I mess something up or don't do it quite right, I know there's the opportunity to be like, let's film that again. And this time it's going to be a little more stressful. I just went out of the screen because I want to get a pair of scissors if I can find one. I always have everything right here until I need it, and then I don't. Oh, there. Okay, I'm back. Here I am. The reason I wanted to go get a pair of scissors is one thing I've noticed when I am working with projects with Stitch Saver is some people say that they have a problem with Stitch Saver and they can't get the stitches to slide evenly. If your Stitch Saver is cut at an angle like that, that little angle right there is going to get caught on all of your stitches and make it really difficult to slide your stitches. So you want to make sure that your Stitch Saver is cut flush, just like that. You can just cut off the end very, very easily. This is 2mm Stitch Saver. That is all written into the pattern for you. The next thing I'm going to do is take that Stitch Saver and slide it onto a needle. I am sliding onto I think it's a US 0 or double 0 needle, just a really small needle. And then I am able to take all of those wraps right there and then just slide them onto my needle. And I've got a very long circular needle happening right now. So I've got all of those stitches that were on the Stitch Saver now on one long needle. One thing some of you might have noticed and be wondering about is what's going on with this little cable lock right there. I use that cable lock because sometimes I find that my stitches are likely to slide off of the needle that I'm working on. I'm working on just one of those little Chow Goo shorties right there for the cuff. So I use that to just kind of lock that down and keep those stitches from going anywhere. And now what I'm going to do is start to work the bind off, but there's going to be a little trick to this to make sure that you work it smoothly. And I might be wishing that I had a different needle tip. So luckily I have everything right at my fingertips. I'm going to put that back on right there. And I'm just coming in with the third needle to make my life easy. And what I'm going to do is go into the first stitch. I am going to zoom in. Look at that. I'm going to go into the first stitch of the front needle and the first stitch on the back needle. And then I'm going to go and grab my working yarn, wrap my working yarn around, and then pull the working yarn, that new stitch, through both of those stitches. If you see yourself splitting your yarn, just go back and do that again. It's only happening because you all are watching me right now. Wow. Sorry. Pulling it through that first stitch, pulling it through that second stitch, and then I'm going to be able to slide both of those stitches off, just like that. And I've got one stitch off my needle. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to go through that first stitch. And now what I want you to see is when I go through the back stitch, I'm not going through the front of the loop because that would twist that wrap, making it tighter. And you don't want these socks to be too tight when they're going over your ankle. And now I am going to pull that stitch through and pull that stitch through. And now I've got 2 stitches on my right hand needle, and I'm just going to bind off one stitch by taking that first stitch and bringing it over the second stitch. And now I'm going to continue around like that, making sure to go through that wrap on the back needle so that you're not twisting the wrap. And that's going to depend on how you worked Lola's 2-timing technique, whether you are going through the front of the stitch or going through the back of the stitch. You just don't want to twist it. And now I'm going to continue doing this all the way around all of those stitches, and I will have bound off the inside of the cuff to the outside of the cuff. Now, one of my testers found that her bind off was a little too tight. What I find is sometimes you can pull up that stitch a little bit to make it loose. And so she worked a version of Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off where she incorporated a yarn over every so often as she worked the bind off. And if you add in that yarn over, what that does is give you just a little bit more elasticity to the bind off right there, which you can kind of see right there. So that's going to be up to you if you feel like that bind off is feeling too tight. What that looks like when it's done is that line right there is the bind off that has joined the outside of the cuff to the inside of the cuff. So please do ask any questions if you have any. I did a very short version of this video on Instagram last week, but I really wanted to do a kind of longer one and explain a few things to you. So hopefully that made sense. I don't see anything popping up in the chat that would be really obvious for me to cover again. I hope you all could see that and enjoyed that. Sorry, I should come back to me. I forget to do that sometimes. Whoops. 20 lashes with the wet noodle right there. I don't even know what that was. So other things to tell you about, since we've covered that Larch PEDS, is some new yarn that I got. And I'm honestly not sure if I'm allowed to show you this yarn, but I got it in the mail from Wool Dreamers last week. And it's a brand new yarn of theirs called 90 Varas or 90 Varas. Varas is a historical unit of measurement in Spain, and I'm not sure what the significance of 90 or 90 is, but it's 100% merino, transhuman merino wool. It is all Spanish. Sorry, let's go to the overhead so you can see that. It's 100% Spanish merino. It's really a gorgeous fingering. And what I love about this merino is it's soft, but it's not too soft. You know how sometimes merino is so soft that you know it's gonna like pill in a minute and just kind of fall apart on you. This is kind of this perfect balance between soft and hardy. And I plan to do a fall design in it because it's gorgeous. I don't think it's in the shops yet, so this is just kind of me sharing something with you that I think you'll see at some point. You know, I love Spanish wool. I've always loved Wool Dreamers yarns so very much. Um, Sorry, I was just reading the comments like I'm not supposed to do. I love Spanish wools, particularly from Wool Dreamers, and I'm very excited about that addition to their line. I'm also knitting with another one of their yarns right now, Mota, that I've knit with Cautiva before, but never Mota. And I've got something on the needles in Mota, but I can't tell you about that. Um, I want to show you just some fun photos from home because normally I have a segment in lives where I share with you kind of my travels, but I haven't been traveling. So I get to show you home. This is Taganic Falls, probably like a month ago. So I live in the Finger Lakes. I actually live in a town called Trumansburg, which is the home to Taganic Falls, which is the tallest waterfall east of the Mississippi. It is taller than Niagara Falls, but certainly doesn't have the volume. Although in this photo, it does have a fair amount of water coming down it and pretty exciting, or not. It's actually maybe not exciting. CNN just released like the top 10 places you should visit in America, and Ithaca was one of the places listed. And they used a photo of Taganic Falls. And if you're from Trumansburg, like I'm from Trumansburg, you call bullshit on that. Sorry, YouTube, sorry. Because Taganic Falls is in Trumansburg. It's not in Ithaca. So using that photo to market for Ithaca is super not cool, in my professional opinion. It is a really, really amazing falls, and I hope everybody gets to see it at some point in person. I've been doing a fair amount of hiking. I had a very muddy hiking day where we kept running into cows, and that was pretty fun. The calves like didn't know they should be scared of us, which was really cute. I have been gardening a lot, and this flower, I bought this, I think winter. I bought it online. It's called Euringium. And the first time that I saw this was in Iceland with my friend Andrea at a botanical garden, and they had like a whole huge, gorgeous row of it. And it's like the most beautiful icy purple blue. I believe it's in the Echinops family. And I have a ton of Echinops, which are like a little thistle that I want to slowly replace with Euringium because it's just so much more interesting and I love it. And one of the things I love doing when I travel is finding plants that I like in botanical gardens and then taking pictures of them and then seeing if they're appropriate for my garden at home. So these two plants I had seen, I think somewhere else on that Iceland trip. That back one is a Japanese painted fern. And of course, I'm having a brain fart on what the plant is to the front of that. And it's a way when I travel of like not coming home with a ton of stuff because it's very tempting to do a lot of shopping and then just bring home things that seem like I want them at the time but aren't actually not necessary and I already have a house full of stuff. So I've learned to like take photos of plants and then kind of see what I can incorporate into my garden beds that remind me of those adventures but kind of are more long lasting and provide me some with some exercise, right? Um, so this is my one of my we have like a small raised bed garden for vegetables, and this is kind of like a try photo, whatever that's called. Everybody drink. There's 69 photos, 69 plants in this photo right here. um, and to the left is the raised bed before I planted it. And then I always call this like my salad buffet or salad bed because I put all the like herbs and radishes and greens in here. And that middle photo, things were looking good. And then some bunnies and woodchucks were coming around and like eating everything. And they'd like, I swear, they'd like let it grow back and they'd eat it again. And in the last week and a half, we have not seen any of the woodchucks around and things are finally coming in, which is that picture all the way to the right. And we've been eating greens and lots of kale and makes me very happy to have that. Here's just like another angle. This is like we put these raised beds in, I'm going to say going on 17 years ago. They're made out of black locust and they are functional and work really well. And we just add new soil as necessary. They were really great this spring when everybody else had wet, wet, wet garden beds, and those were pretty dry. So we were able to plant a little early. This is just a photo of last night at sunset out on my road. I got 69 mosquito bites getting that photo for you. Mosquitoes love me so much. I think that's the last one in that. Oh no. And then I wanted to tell you about my new photographer, Julia, who's freaking awesome. And here are some behind the scenes of those of the photo shoot that we had right before she went back to Italy for the summer. So she lives locally and has family in Italy. And we snuck in one quick long shoot before she left. And she's done a lot of e-commerce photography. She's just super game, as you can see. She was like lying around in rocks in the creek, and I was doing some kind of yoga move on the ground to get my feet up so we could get this shot. I think it's kind of fun to see like what behind a photo looks like, right? Like what's actually happening. I'm lying on the ground. That time I had a blanket underneath me, which was pretty nice. That's not always the case. Photo shoots are really fun, and I'm glad I found somebody I feel really comfortable with, because that was a little stressful having to do my own photos. I'm glad I'm over that. So, do you want to talk about other travel? That was like home life sharing and travel. I've got a bunch coming up in 26. I am done. I'm not adding anything else for 26. Everything is listed on my workshop page. There's a cruise I'm doing with a group through in Portugal down the river whose name I forget right now. It leaves out of Porto. Oh my God, I'm so bad. Somebody's gonna tell me in a second in the chat, and then I'll be like, yeah, that river. I can't believe I'm spacing on that. And that is not a trip that I've organized. So I was hired by SBJ Retreats to teach on a cruise ship with Kim McEvan O'Brien from Indigo Dragonfly and the Grocery Girls. They're all from Canada. It's going to be really, really fun. I think there's like 6 cabins left on that cruise. And then in June of next year, I am doing a 14-day cruise that starts in Reykjavik and goes around the southern coast of Iceland, which I've never done before, and then down to Scotland, and then up the east coast of Norway. Very excited about that. And that one I am doing with Wild Onion Productions. That is a woman named Susan, who I'm very excited to get to know better, and Mary and Nella from Lyrical Knits, who I've also never met in real life. And I think we're gonna write, thank you, Audrey, the Douro River in Portugal. I knew somebody would say it. Up the east coast of Norway. So very excited for both of those cruises in 2026. And what I like to do is organize a cruise every other year. So you know that in March, I took a group to Argentina. I was underprepared for how phenomenal that cruise was going to be and how amazing Patagonia was going to be, like how gorgeous the southern part of Argentina is, the Falkland Islands, the penguins. You heard all about it in a previous live. I could go on and on. And I came back and was like, okay, where do I want to go next? And I knew that I was not taking y'all to the Caribbean. And we had already been to Norway, and I'm going to Norway again with another cruise. And all one day, when I finally kind of had time to breathe a little bit, Holland America like knew I was ready to wrap my brain around something new, and they sent me an email that they had just opened up Japan for spring of 2027, and I like fast emailed Melissa to be like, can we do this? Melissa's my awesome tour operating helper. She's the person who does all the booking. So we booked and were able to get group space, which is the thing. Being able to get like classrooms and knit night space on a boat is like what will make or break being able to do a cruise. So we are going from March 26th till April 11th, 2027. It's a round trip from Tokyo cruise. We're starting in Tokyo 2 days early to have a tour in Tokyo, and also just to make sure that everybody lands and gets a deep breath before we get onto the boat. I feel like that's a long flight over to Japan, and I wouldn't want people to just show up and go right on the boat, just have a little time to acclimate a tiny bit. So the trip includes 2 nights in a hotel in Tokyo. It's actually too early to book hotels for spring of 2027, so we've got our eyes on a few. We have lots of time to plan. If you have traveled with me before, you already got a link to sign yourself up. And then on Saturday, if you are in either of my clubs, you will be getting an email with a link to sign yourself up for more information. The trip is about half full right now, which is blowing me away. So we're going to be pretty careful that we don't overbook by mistake. And then we will totally have a wait list, because if something's happening in 2027, plans can change for people. And I know that there will be some movement in that list. We're going to be starting in Tokyo and then going south and east, and then kind of through the middle of the archipelago, and then back up around the north, stopping at ports along the way. We're going to have only 3 sea days, which for me as a knitting teacher is lovely, because we have lots of port days. So I'll be teaching 3 classes, and we'll be stopping in Osaka, Kochi, Hiroshima, Busan, South Korea, Saki Minato, I don't want to say that one, Sakai Minato, Suruga, Toyama. I meant to practice this. Sakata, Aomori, Hakodate, and then back to Tokyo again. And we're going to have 2 tours that will be private tours that I'll lead. And I'm looking on finding interesting things for us to do. I'm hoping that we can find some artisans, really like learn about handcrafts. I've already kind of found things that I really want to do with us in Tokyo that are very much, we will all love, like the bead district in Tokyo, which honestly we could spend the whole day there. But there's also a fabric district. There's also some great yarn shops. There's also a museum I really want to go to. So we're going to try and see how much we can cram in. And then I'm going to find 2 other tour days. Those will be very interesting and really right up all of our alleys. The other thing that I haven't said, I am talking this sucker up because it's going to be so good, is that it is cherry blossom season when we're going to be in Japan. So we're going to get to do lots of garden touring as we are knitting and exploring the handcrafts. And I'm very excited about that. Extra excited because my dear friend Andrea is joining me. Andrea lives in Texas, and she is a master gardener. And so we're going to have a master gardener on board, and we're going to be able to pick her brain as we see things and learn about things. And y'all know I love gardening. And I'm so intrigued by Japanese gardens. We got to see one in Ireland. I guess it was last fall that we saw that gorgeous one in Ireland at the Japanese stud. It was at the Irish stud and Japanese gardens, and it was really gorgeous and kind of inspired me to the storytelling that Japanese gardens oftentimes tell. So that is my next trip coming up. Again, signups will open for club members on Saturday the 5th, and then if there are any spots left or the waitlist spots will open on Monday the 7th, and you'll get emails about that. Very excited to have so many of you coming on this. I had no idea I wanted to go to Japan until that popped into my inbox, and I was like, I have always wanted to go to Japan, and I want to go to Japan with my people. So fun. I'm thrilled you're joining me. And for those of you who can't make it, we always take lots of pictures and share them. So I absolutely promise that we'll be doing that. We will take 69 pictures and we will share them 69 different ways with you. It will be totally appropriate. I absolutely promise. There you go. There's a little Lola for you. She wanted to get in on that. How am I doing on my 69 minutes of live? Pretty good. Next up, we have Jumpsuits. Who out there likes to sew? So many people have seen me wearing this yellow jumpsuit. I first wore it. I got it last fall. So I went to a clothing exchange that Bristol, Ivy, and Thea Coleman had, and we made it there like a day later after they did the clothing exchange. One sec. This was at Rhinebeck. And Thea had this jumpsuit in a pile and she was like, Laura, try this on. And I tried it on and I was like, I feel like me. And it's kind of fitting my new body, which has shifted a little bit over the last few years. And what I love about it, what I've understood I love about it is it doesn't have elastic on it. It's actually, if you look at the back is zippered. And so it's much more fitted. It's got darting in the back, so it like lands. I can't believe I'm showing you my arse on screen there, but it's much more fitted, and then it ties around the front. That little top is not closed because then I can't go to the bathroom easily. And I was like, they're not going to see the back, whatever. And then it's got this nice little belt, so you can see that there's darting and pleating in the front to get that extra fabric, and it's got that nice little belt right there. And a bunch of you asked me if I made it and what the pattern was, and I was like, well, no, I didn't. I found it, and here's some photos of me wearing the same jumpsuit. I know I just showed it to you that were in the photo shoot. And what I did was I looked up this jumpsuit on ThreadUp. First, I looked it up, and it's not made anymore. But I found this jumpsuit. It's made by Greylin, Greylin. I'll give you that name in the show notes when the live is over. And I looked for it on ThreadUp and Poshmark, and I ended up finding 3 jumpsuits, another one in the yellow, so I have a second yellow one. I got a black one as well that I've been wearing a ton, and then I got an orange one, which I'll show you in this next photo, and they were all 21 bucks or 20 bucks, right? They were all super on sale. So this orange one right here, people also asked if I sewed this, and no, I bought it for $20. And I know ThreadUp is like lightly used. They'll kind of say like wear and tear. These were all hardly worn, like pretty much brand new and so nice. But if you sew like I sew, you might want to make this pattern, which is New Look N6616. I can see you all like getting on your computers to find it. This pattern is the closest I could find. It's got that same tie. I think the tie on the one that I'm wearing is maybe like a little bit wider and goes narrower, but that would be really easy to even looking at this tie, actually, it does go wider and then narrower. You can see that in the diagram. One of the things I love is there's a dressed version and a jumpsuit version. So I could see making this in like fancy fabric at some point for some dressy thing. I would wear a jumpsuit to something fancy. Maybe, this is linen, what I'm wearing. So I don't think that would totally cut it, but I'm going to get one of these patterns. I also found this one if you are more of a fan of a boat neck, and it's also got the dress and the square. I didn't buy a copy of this one yet. I'm not sure. I do think I'd make those legs longer. I'm not sure about that. She's so sassy. Isn't she super sassy? She's screaming 69 all over the place right there. She is 6446, otherwise known as 69. And then this, you guys, are you laughing in the comments or disgusted by me now? This one is a jumpsuit that I'm going to make for myself, and I am so excited to jump into this. I think all of those had pockets actually, but this one in particular, I love the angles of this pocket. I love that like modern line of the placket on the right going over the left. And then I love how the back is very kind of like utilitarian looking. What I don't love about it is I think that if you make it in a fabric that's too stiff, you could end up in this very kind of Star Trek-y, like if you're cosplaying Star Trek right there. I noticed that in the orange one. See how this one, the sleeve is kind of falling off her shoulder really nicely right there. It would be really easy for that to just kind of end up at an angle sticking out. So I've read a lot of notes from people who've made this. It's supposedly not a very easy sew, quite tricksy. The instructions sounds like they leave a lot to the imagination. I do think I would do something to make that not quite as deep, or like wear a jumpsuit underneath there so there's some kind of line right there. I also think all the ones that I saw sewn, I think I would make this panel a little bit narrower right there. It seemed like it was pretty gappy right there. And I also think I would kind of cut that sleeve up like that and not have it come over my shoulder, because the likelihood of it sticking out Star Trek style, that's not my jam. So I'm pretty excited about this Vogue pattern. Let me see if I can show it to you again. That's going to be like my next big sewing project. I am just finishing up a present for a friend, and that just needs the cuffs and the bottom hemmed on it, and I'll get that out in the mail. And then I'm kind of like ready to cut something. I'm thinking that I'll use the same kind of lightweight tensile twill that I used for my magic pants, because that was the perfect amount of drapey but also structure, which I think is what this jumpsuit wants. They love talking about sewing. I hope that's not boring for you. For those of you who don't know, I did go to school for apparel design, so I'm like a trained seamstress and pattern maker. And then I kind of flipped over into the knitting world in the early 2000s. So when I sew now, that's just kind of like for fun. And I do have a very good time when I am designing things, thinking about what kind of clothing is going to go with it, like fashion wise, like what is my wardrobe missing? Oftentimes I'll make things for photo shoots, which is why I think people were like wondering if I had made the jumpsuits. But it's fun for me to kind of delve into a new thing. I can already tell come fall that I'm going to be looking at like what happens with longer sleeves and jumpsuits. I'm not sure I'm tall enough for like those kind of like dovetail work long sleeve suits. I saw Andrea Mowry wearing one the other day in her latest pattern, and she looks so good, but she's got like 8 inches on me, I think. Well, maybe 6 inches, 69 inches. She's taller than me, and it looks so good on her. I just am not sure. I feel like I'm going to have to find one and see if I can pull it off. Audrey was saying she'd make the jumpsuit in a linen. I already have so many linen jumpsuits. I think I want something, particularly for that Vogue one, I think I want it to be a little bit like more city or something. Because I think I want it for Japan, is what I want. Magic pants. I saw somebody just ask about magic pants. So I've sewn 3 pairs of magic pants now. I did a Instagram reel showing you my latest one. I've talked about them in previous lives. It just Google Ann Tilly magic pants if you don't know what I'm talking about, to check them out. I think if you Google Laura Nelkin magic pants, the videos of me showing how they work, they are so forgiving and flattering on so many different body types, but particularly for my bullety bits. Really, really love them. Whenever I wear them when I'm teaching, I always like show everybody how they work to oohs and ahs of the classroom. It's shocking because I'm basically taking off my pants in public, which wouldn't be the first time. So that's jumpsuits for you. And then the final thing I do to end every live is to talk about what I'm listening and watching and reading, and then what we're eating a little bit, and then announce the winner of last month's live, which was actually 2 months ago, and then tell you what the giveaway is going to be for this 69th live. It's a special one. So, in terms of what I'm listening to, I talked about this in my email today. I am almost done listening to The Place of Tides by James Rebanks. He is a farmer from northern England, southern Scotland, like borders area. He's written a few other books that I have not read. But when I heard about this book, the subject matter was so interesting to me because he spent a season with a duck woman on a remote island out in the Vega archipelago in northern Norway, learning about the art, the craft, the life of collecting feathers from eider ducks, and like reigniting a tradition that had been almost lost by a woman who is from up there and lives in the Vega archipelago. And he had been there on a trip and was so enamored when he met her that he wanted to go back, and he reached out to her, and he ended up writing a book about her life and her work. And it's also about him as well. It's really, really beautiful. It's thoughtful. It's elegant. It's honest. What else good can I say about it? It doesn't make me want to go live on a remote island and collect eider down from eider ducks, because I don't like chores. and it sounded like chores a lot of the day, but also like, and not romanticized, it's reality. And some people like love that. And I know that's not for me. I can, barely remember to feed my cat. She has to yell at my face a bunch of times. So, my friend Andrea and I, when we were in Iceland a few years ago, we actually tried to go to an island called Vogar in way northern Iceland that had a tradition of eider down collecting, and it was already closed for the season when we got there. And we kept signing up for the trip because they'd like make it available again, and then it would get canceled again. And we were quite disappointed, but this book kind of brought that what I was hoping to learn more about to life. So I highly suggest it. It's called The Place of Tides by James Rebanks. Um, what I am reading right now, I finished Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. And that was a book that I didn't think I was going to like. I think I talked about it in my last live. I ended up loving it. It's about video game designers. And I was like, I don't video game. I'm not going to want to read that. But it was so much more about being a human than it was about video game design. It was like humanity and like life skills with this side of video gaming, which was interesting. I don't know that much about it. What I just started reading is Variation by Rebecca Yarros. And some of you might know Rebecca Yarros because she wrote the Empyrean series. And I've read some of the Empyrean series, but I was ready to take a little break from Dragon Rider smut. I think sometimes it's called like, I don't know, Dragon Rider Stupping or Fairy Schmud or like, I don't even know. It's not Schmeg. Um, Y'all know what I'm talking about. But I just was like, I'm not so much of a fantasy reader. I'm a little more like real life. So I've got to balance out my fantasy. But Variation is about a family of ballet dancers, and one of them falls in love. And I'm just at the very beginning, but I'm already deep in. I think she wrote it a few years ago, maybe before the Empyrean series took off. And now she's just all into Dragon Rider stripping now. I don't know if any of you have read that. The other book that I have queued up that I started, and I'm going to stop it for a little while because it's too soon to read it, is a book called The Sakura Obsession. And that's the incredible story of the plant hunter who saved Japan's cherry blossoms by Naoko Abe. And that book is about the history of the cherry blossoms in Japan and how the great white cherry blossom almost became extinct. But an Englishman calling one Ingram when he was in Japan for his honeymoon in like the early 1900s brought a bunch of cuttings back with him to England, and then it had been sharing him with people, and there were like many cherry blossoms growing in England, and then one type, the great white blossom, was almost extinct, and he was able to get a cutting of a cherry blossom. I love the story. Back to Japan in a potato on the Orient Express. But I don't want to give too much away. In the Trans-Siberian Express, I have notes right here, so I don't like tell you wrong. And it's so far, it's very interesting. It's talking about history, and then it's like a bit of storytelling, and it's about his life, but it's also about the role that cherry blossoms and like the season of cherry blossoms play in Japan. And it's just too early to read it, but I'm hoping that everybody who goes on the cruise, maybe we'll have a read along together. Andrea had told me about this book. She found it the other day at the bookstore. And then anybody else who wants to read it. I think it's going to be a really interesting one. In terms of what I'm watching The Bear, season 4. I just finished that last night. Their eyebrow game is on fire. I noticed there's like so many close-ups and like really in-depth talking. Not as much yelling in this season of The Bear as other seasons. Still some yelling, not as much. But their eyebrow games, they're all messed up. I like to make sure mine are like as perfect as possible. They do not care about that there. I don't know why that was like my takeaway this time. The eyebrows, so interesting. And then the other thing I've been watching is And Just Like That, because I liked Sex in the City, and that's happening right now. So I've just been escape watching, trying not to imbibe too much news, but also trying not to stick my head under the dirt and ignore it, because if we do that, we're going to be living in a very different country than we were living in a year ago. So I'm working on life balance. I hope you all are as well. Eating. I've been cooking a little bit because I'm looking forward to my oven, and I want to roast big trays of things in my new oven, which I can't wait for. So my friend gave me a bunch of garlic scapes this a few weeks ago. Garlic scapes are what comes off the top of a garlic bulb as it is getting ready to flower. That's actually that white bit at the top is the flower. And you have to cut those off so that your garlic knows to put its energy into the bulb and not into its flower. And that's how you get like big, luscious heads of garlic. And she gave me a pile of garlic scapes because she had like so many and didn't know what to do with them. And I saw a recipe online for garlic scape salt. And it was during those very, very hot days. I know I've made garlic scape pesto. I've made like herby mojo sauces. They always make me be like, so much garlic, right? Just like get everybody with the garlic. So I tried out this garlic scape salt recipe and it worked beautifully. I ground up the garlic scapes after taking off the bloom. I then mix that up with some salt, a lot of Meldon salt. It was like 3-to-1 maybe with the garlic scapes. And then because it was hot as freaking Hades out and my deck is really hot and did I mention that I don't have an oven? But I don't want Max to know that the deck works so well and I don't need an oven. I just put the salt out on a pizza tray out on my deck and then went out there and stirred it like every 20 minutes or half hour until it was totally dry, like completely dry. And then I packaged it up. I got like 2 full pints of garlic scape salt. It is yummy. I love it. It's great on eggs. I'm not sure what it isn't good on yet. It's probably going to be amazing in mashed potatoes. Anywhere you use salt that isn't maybe your like sweet French toast, use your garlic scape salt. So I'll give you the recipe. Nancy just wanted to bring up 69. I use 69 garlic scapes in my recipe. How about you? How many garlic scapes did you use? So thank you for watching. Let's talk about winners of the last live and then winners of the next live. I think I saw the person who's the winner for the last live. The winner of the last live, I am giving away a kit to make a phoenix pendant, which was a design that this was the extra goodie in the last N Club kit. It seems like everybody loved it. And I have an extra kit for one of you. I actually have about 100 pendants on order. So at some point in July, kits will be going up in my Etsy shop for these if you're bummed that you're not the winner of this kit right here. And the winner is Sia Smith Davis, who I see right here. She's going to be all excited. I don't normally see the winner as I'm going to announce the winner. So Sia, I have your address, but it's from a while ago. I looked and it's like from 2015. So maybe if you would email me at laura@nelkindesigns.com with your current address, I will pop this in the mail to you. Congratulations. This is the score. And I'll also make sure that you get the pattern because that right now that's like just for the N Club. It's not up on Ravelry yet is what I'm trying to say. So this week, I want you to tell dirty jokes in the comments, but then I don't want YouTube to like not. You have to be so careful when you're super spicy, but you can't be spicy because it's YouTube. I was like, they won't block me for saying stupping. I'm good on that, right, Max? They don't do Yiddish. I think we're okay. So what you're gonna win, I'm making you something. A winner of this live, who I will choose in the next live. And I've started making you your own bespoke bedazzled thong. Now I cast on with this pink color. I'm not sure I love the pink. I might rip it out and do something a little bit more neutral, or I might go a little bit like moodier and darker. I want this to be the perfect thong for the winner. Do you see how it's catching the light right there? Them some sparkles. Lola loves a little bit of sparkle in her life. This is going to be the best, most bespoke thong that anybody has ever won in their entire existence of watching one of my lives. I know. And suggesting dirty penguin jokes. Y'all, leave a comment below that makes us laugh because we all need a good giggle right now. You can bring up something from one of my past lives if you're like, do you remember when Marlola put on a bathing suit and put herself on the cover of Sports Illustrated? You know, that will make me laugh. Whatever, give me something funny. It could be fun, something funny your grandkid did or your kid did or your dad did, whatever. I'm not gonna gatekeep what's gonna make it so you win this thong. I will randomly choose a winner. I'm not gonna go with the person who makes me the laugh the hardest, but if something's really funny and they don't win, maybe I'll make two thongs because you know that song I got two phones by Kevin Gates. I got two thongs. No, they're not with me, Max. Guys, go Google Two Phones by Kevin Gates. Get back to me. I got a joke about that later. So, yes, it does have sequins on both sides, which is very exciting. You might want to under thong with this one. um, my moderators should all actually get one of these too, I would say, Susie. So leave a comment below. I am going to say goodnight to you. Thank you so much for watching the 69th live. I think that our next live is going to be in August when I have some big news for you. I'm going to put my head down and work and play in the FLX for the summer. This thong is going to have way more than 69 sparkles on it. And I appreciate you for watching. Have a great evening. Happy knitting.